For a second consecutive year, I feel like the Pittsburgh Steelers have had yet another monster draft class, which will have some contributors come out of it. But there are still some holes that remain on this roster, and how do they fill those ahead of the 2024 season? And where are those holes exactly? Welcome back to Mike Drop Sports, everybody. I'm Jason. Let's dive in here on a Monday following the draft, and let's talk a little bit about what this Pittsburgh Steelers team needs to do in order to continue to build out this roster ahead of the 2024 season, and exactly still where are their deficiencies, exactly where are their holes, and are they significant? Do they really matter to where, oh shit, man, if they don't get this guy, their season's over? I don't think there are any holes like that that still remain. However, I want to talk about the big one, and I think that's wide receiver. I think the door's still open to go out and make a trade, and I think they still have the available resources in order to do that. You saw the Denver Broncos rumored to have shut the door on the Courtland Sutton trade, and then I hear another rumor, not just a short time ago here, that says, hey, the door is still open for that trade. So we'll see how that all unfolds. Those rumors are hot and heavy still with the Courtland Sutton thing. I think the 49ers trade situations, I think those are over. I don't think that those are possible anymore. I just don't think the 49ers are willing to come to terms with the Pittsburgh Steelers financially in order to make an Ayuk trade happen or a Deebo Samuel trade happen, any of those trades happen for the 49ers and the Steelers to become trade partners. Now, could that change in the next couple days? Absolutely, it could. But you see the Pittsburgh Steelers still out there on the market, and I still think that they could possibly, out of all the 31 teams that remain, other than the Steelers, I still think that there's somebody out there that they could potentially find a trade partner with to get a veteran wide receiver in here to really help out George Pickens, Roman Wilson, Calvin Austin. You really don't have any real legitimate twos or threes right now other than Roman Wilson and George Pickens, and I think you need to get one more guy that could potentially be a top 3 wide receiver for your team. You have guys like Quez Watkins, you have guys like Van Jefferson, whom I think could be quality number 4s and 5 type targets. But you see, the Steelers really have a hole here, and I think that they still have to go out there and fill it. Could this be, though, a disaster for the Pittsburgh Steelers if they aren't able to fill that hole with a veteran guy? Perhaps no. Because I think the big X factor in all of this is how Calvin Austin is going to be able to perform and what the Pittsburgh Steelers really value that Calvin can do. Can he do what the Pittsburgh Steelers need here out of a number 3 type target? Could Van Jefferson step up and be a number 3 type target? He's had a good year before in 2021. So we'll see how that goes. But the Steelers really have some options, but they need to really figure it out in my eyes at that wide receiver spot. And if the opportunity arises to where they can do it financially responsibly, go ahead and pull it off. Pull the deal off. Pull a trade off for a Courtland Sutton, somebody of that nature. Get another veteran in here and allow this wide receiver core to go from a deficiency to a real strength of this roster. And we'll see how that all plays out. Let's move over to that cornerback spot where you saw the Pittsburgh Steelers get Watts in the 6th round out of Texas to solidify a little bit of that room, to take a little bit of pressure off the depth to where maybe they're not as desperate. They have Corey Trice. They have a guy like Darius Rush. They bring in Beanie Bishop in the undrafted free agency market. You see the addition of Dante Jackson. And does this all these moves, does that satisfy you to have that group with Joey Porter Jr.? And I think the answer is yes, because I still think there's a potential for a guy like a Cameron Sutton to enter back into the Steelers building here for 2024. I still think that to be possible. And if you would add a name like Cameron Sutton to the names I just listed, I think automatically you have a cornerback room that you're really, really happy with, led by a young stud second-year player in Joey Porter Jr. I think that you really would be confident about it. So I really honestly think, too, the Steelers could get away with going with what they got. Maybe signing a guy like an Eric Rowe or somebody like that. I know some people are fans of maybe bringing back a Patrick Peterson or something. But I think you're just a little bit of a small piece away from really having a room that you're really, truly comfortable with. So I wouldn't call that to be a monster deficiency either. Then you look at the inside linebacker room. I think the Pittsburgh Steelers did a quality job this offseason rebuilding it after the crazy amount of devastating injuries that they had last year at the position. They get in free agency, you get Patrick Queen. What a monster move. They get him for far less than I thought that they would have paid for him, that any team would have paid for him. And the Pittsburgh Steelers were able to lock him down and get him in there for a few years. Now you look at what they did in the draft. Peyton Wilson, I think, is a real stud and going to be an absolute steal of this draft. At least one of them. I think the Steelers got 3 big steals of this draft. And I think Peyton Wilson really leads on that list. So you look at what they had before, a Landon Roberts. Does Cole Holcomb come back in a limited role after a monster injury, which was so gross to see? But we wish him well, and hopefully he continues his rehab. But does he get a chance to come back and contribute a little bit? I really think, though, that they've bolstered this depth also when you bring in some undrafted free agent rookies. You get Julius Welshoff, Jacoby Wyndham, both linebackers. So you added some depth. Don't forget the other players that they've had, Mark Robinson, other players. They have some depth there now, and they have the ability to really let this room play out and fill out the guys behind the Patrick Queens, the Landon Roberts, the Peyton Wilson, and allow the depth to continue to flow. And if you're the Steelers, you know you need to have some quality guys behind those trio of starters, because you could use potentially all of them throughout the season, as the Steelers found that out in a big way. The Pittsburgh Steelers also added a quarterback in undrafted free agency in Plumlee, and they added in Dewan Edwards, another running back, to that room. So those are the undrafted free agent rookie class so far. And you look at the Pittsburgh Steelers again, linebacker, I think they've definitely secured. I think they've taken care of the cornerback room pretty decently with trades, with pickups, and I think it'll end up playing out pretty well with the people they have if they make a couple little slight adjustments. So the wide receiver room really looks like it to be one of the highest priorities to go ahead and get a veteran. Do I think it ruins your season if they're not able to secure one of those veterans? I don't think so, because I think you have the potential for Calvin Austin to do well. So those are the positions we've covered so far. But you went into the draft, many people thought, hey, the offensive line, major deficiency, you need a right tackle, you need to get rid of Dan Moore, you need to figure out this center spot. You have nobody there except for a guy like James Daniels or Herbig, guys that have had limited opportunities at that position. But you wanted to go out and find somebody that's real solid, that has some experience, and they were able to do just that. They were able to fill the needs on the offensive line, and I feel like they did it in a big, big way. You get WVU center Zach Frazier, the guy I pounded the table for. I think he's the best center in this draft, and I think he solidifies that center spot for 2024 and beyond. And I think he is going to be a real quality player for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Then you look at Troy Fautanu, the number 20 overall selection for your Steelers, a guy that I think was a monster steal, along with Zach Frazier being a steal at 51. You look at Fautanu at 20, a guy that should probably have been drafted in the top 15 in many, many, many people's opinions. And I think the Steelers got a real steal there with a real dog. Now, do they move him to right? Do they leave him at left? However that plays out, I think the Steelers just need to go into the 2024 season before these rookie mini camps, before OTAs, before Latrobe, and allow these guys to know their definitive roles and allow this line to really start to get a ton of reps. I think as many reps as you can get them here ahead of the 2024 season, that's imperative. And I think you need to get that in place and allow that line to really roll here and allow it to gel a little bit. But they were able to fill those needs, guys. They were able to really, really fill them in a big way. Then you look at McCormick, that 4th-round pick with another guard. I think that was a quality depth piece move. So you really, really just took care of this offensive line, and I really thought you did it in a major way if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think that you really were diligent about ensuring that you win in the trenches here next season and that you allow this run game to flourish. Now you look at Najee Harris and Jaylen Warren and you say to yourself, man, running behind a quality offensive line, man, the sky's the limit considering what they were able to do last year. what hey, let's double it. That's what you're kind of thinking in your head. Like, you're thinking that type of potential for that type of runner or that type of running back room. You think that there could be some real significant strides gained from your Pittsburgh Steelers in the run game. You look at how this offensive line could make a guy like Russell Wilson just a lot more comfortable in learning his new surroundings and his new team and a new offense. You really look at this Steelers team and you're comfortable with what they did. So we continue the theme of the holes. We've pretty much identified a lot of them, and we've taken care of a lot of them if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers. And you should be comfortable with that. Maybe some other holes that still remain. What could it be? What would you be looking at? Maybe a safety or something. But there isn't a ton. Maybe guys along the defensive front. I feel like they really didn't get a ton there. But you have a Dean Lowry that you brought in free agency. You were able to draft another linebacker. So I just think that you were able to do some things in that defensive box area that were okay, and I think we'll get the job done. And I think the Pittsburgh Steelers are really having high hopes for guys like Keanu Benton in year 2, Cameron Hayward coming back, being healthy, and really being hungry for a Lombardi trophy. So I really think the Steelers took care of a lot of holes is what I'm really getting at here, guys. And I'm not sure now, after this draft, that there's so many holes remaining that I would be ultra concerned and say, there's this one spot that if they don't get it, the season's over. I think you've pretty much taken care of everything. The only real concern you should have now is you have 2 quarterbacks on 1-year deals. And how does that work out? But you can rest assured that 2024 is taken care of, so we know that. And do the Pittsburgh Steelers extend Justin Fields prior to the May 2nd deadline to pick up the 5th-year option? Because we know they're not going to pick up his 5th-year option. So we'll see. We'll see how that all goes. But the Pittsburgh Steelers definitely filled some holes here in the draft, and they've definitely taken care and solidified a lot of key spots across this roster. And I don't think, again, there's too many holes that we should be ultra concerned with right at this moment. I think now we need to turn our attention to allowing these guys to get into positions, get into a rhythm, and get a lot of high quality reps. I think that's what you need to be looking for as a fan right now. Just allowing these guys to grow and grow into their positions, and let Omar and them guys work out the contract stuff, work out maybe possibly bringing in the one major deficiency that maybe still remains, and that's getting a veteran wide receiver. And Omar's good with the money. Mike, Omar, Andy, those guys are going to be able to continue to fill out that room, I believe, in a big way. I think that they're going to still have one more splash move here ahead of the summer. I think that will still happen. So we'll see how that goes too. But I definitely think you could see one of those moves still happening. If not, you roll with what you got and you make it work. And if you're Arthur Smith, I think you got some real dogs, and I think that you have the potential to be really good in 2024, no doubt about it. And guys, if you really look at how this team's been built, it's been built to play Steelers football, a brand of football that Mike Tomlin really has always talked about, a run first, control the line of scrimmage type team, play solid defense. This team has really been built in that way. And I really think they've given the tools to Arthur Smith to really succeed at building that type of an offense. And I feel like the defense is really in place to be really good. And we'll see how that goes. But barring injury, I think that this team sits pretty nice, especially after the 2024 draft class. Some of the additions in the undrafted free agency market, don't discount those guys, because we've seen them guys come out of that market and be ultra good really quickly. So we should be happy about those moves, and just let this all soak in. Guys, everybody's been pretty happy with it. I've not got many negative comments about the draft class and what they've done here in free agency so far. So I really think Steeler Nation, and as a fan base, I think we're all pretty happy with the direction that this team has went, and I feel like we're really riding a real high here after the 2024 draft. So continue to let that go. Continue to let that soak in a little bit, and enjoy this offseason, because we have a tough schedule coming up if you're the Steelers, and you really have a lot of decisions to make in terms of positions, in terms of contracts that are coming up. So enjoy this moment and allow the Steelers to work here, and just see how this all plays out, and see how the 2024 season really starts to unfold in front of our eyes, and how good this team could possibly really be. So, yeah, guys, we're going to wrap this up. I just wanted to talk about that a little bit here on our Monday show. Don't forget our live show tonight at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Steel City Live. Until then, I'm Jason. This is Mike Drop Sports. Peace.